All right, hello, rockers and rollers. It's the Meista from Brews and Tunes. Cheers. Absolutely thrilled today. I am chatting with the one and only Trey Gadler, of course, of Dead Man's Hand, as well as Azrael's Bane from way back in the day, if you're familiar with that killer progressive metal band, and also Ugly Wanda. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Wow, ugly Wanda, man, you're going way back.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
well.
it.
How are you today?
Yeah, great to see you. Yeah, excited to talk with you. And of course, congratulations. I know the new single from Dead Man's Hand was released just this past month, just a couple weeks ago, I believe. And what a killer song, Devils Do. I've been watching that video over and over again. I cannot wait for the album to come out, coming up soon, hopefully. Dust Bowl. So yeah, excited about that.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, we're excited as well. Yeah, it'll be out fairly soon. I think the plan is we're going to do singles, for the for probably not maybe 4 or 5 months or something like that. Like
Oh, okay.
a single every once in a while, and then we get about 4 or 5 in, we'll drop the rest of the record. But that's just kind of how everybody does it these days. But it's done, it's ready to go, and yeah, I can't wait to show it to everybody. It's cool.
Oh,
So
nice. All right, cool. Yeah, so you're going to dangle the carrot a little longer.
yeah, yeah, a little bit, yeah.
That's
Unfortunately, that's how you gotta do it these days, So
yeah.
the
Would
whole industry, releasing records is a lot different than it used to be. But
yeah. Is it? Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's interesting. It's like we've gone full circle. It's like the 1950s again, where it's all about singles. Like it's
yeah, man, it's so different, and it's just like, yeah, go get a 45 or whatever. Yeah,
right. Yeah,
it's weird. I've been doing this a long time, put out a lot of records, and I've never done one like this. Where with this kind of release schedule, but you're absolutely right. It's just like the 50s. It's completely different.
yeah. I'm an album guy, so it's kind of freaking me out. But because I just love sitting down and listening to an entire album. So, but that being said, again, I think Devil's Due, what a killer song. And yeah, really looking forward to what else you guys have in store for us. Um,
Appreciate it.
yeah,
Thanks.
just a great sound. And for those who aren't familiar, your sound is, and I hate to pigeonhole and put people in genres, but I mean, it's just this really cool collection. I mean, just the sound and and kind of harkens back also to your EP from back in what was that 2010, I think. Um,
Yeah.
so way back, and it's just, similar sound, maybe a little more raw now in some ways, but yeah, just that really cool southern fried rock, Americana, American roots rock. Just yeah, I've been really digging it, especially that slide guitar. Ooh.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was this started out originally I wanted to do a side project. I'd written a bunch of songs that, um, at the time I was in Azrael's Bane, which, for those that are unfamiliar, was kind of a progressive metal band. And but I had been writing all these songs that I had no outlet for, just stuff that ended up becoming some Dead Man's Hand material, the stuff that became that EP and all that. But the initial plan was just to I wanted to do a solo project, do a side project, record a record,
Oh, okay.
and it morphed into a band. Now we're a band, and now John, our guitar player John Adams, and I write together all the time. So
Cool.
the sound has changed a little bit because it started out with it was different guys to begin with, and now it's a solid group of guys have been together for quite a few years, and all of our own influences and stuff are coming into it, and coloring the sound. So it sounds different than it did when I first started it. But basically, it's just every guy in this band has had a career doing metal or hard rock for many many years, and we're all doing something that we've never done before, a
Mm.
completely different, on purpose. We're trying to do something that sounds different, and it's an adventure,
Yeah.
So you guys used to play in metal, and I'm like, look, man, uh, this needs to sound more, you know, roots rock. It's supposed to sound more like Tom Petty or something like that. So when you're used to playing like Iron Maiden licks or whatever, and then you go and play that, it's different.
Yeah.
It's a whole, and it's been a fun experience for all of us because we're learning how to do it on the fly. I'd never done anything like this before we started this band. None of us had.
That's
And
interesting that you say that because you guys seem so grounded in it. Like it sounds like you've been playing this style of music for decades.
well, I think it's, I mean, we've all been listening to it. I
Mm.
grew up listening to this stuff. my whole generation did,
Yeah.
um, just stuff like, Bob Seger, um, Tom Petty, Springsteen, I guess, all that kind of, you know, like you said, Americana, roots rock kind of stuff. We're from Texas, so we try to put a bit of a Texas spin on things. Um, so I never really played it in a band anyway. I've written songs in that vein, but never really performed them,
Huh.
and none of the guys had, but we got together and I, just said, look, this is what this is supposed to be. And then of course everybody's influences and stuff come into it, and it doesn't come out sounding at all like I heard it in my head, when
Right.
you know, I hear it one way, and then you get together with the guys, and our drummer Van's going to play the way he plays, and our bass player's going to do what he does, Brent, and it just so it colors the sound a little bit. So you got four rock guys, metal guys trying to do this completely different thing, and it I think it comes out with kind of a cool hybrid, but it
Yeah.
wasn't really necessarily on purpose, but that's how it came out.
Yeah. I think you guys nailed it. I love it. I think it
I
sounds
appreciate
so
that.
good. This may sound goofy, but the weird when I listen, and maybe it's because of the visual from the video as well, but watching the sound for me, it's like if a really good glass of bourbon had sound. That's what it's like for me. It's kind of sweet, it's smooth, but it's got a kick to it. It's got a nice edge to it. That's what your sound is for me, is like a nice glass of bourbon. It's just
I love that. I'm stealing that, man. That's so cool.
yeah, please do. Yeah. Yeah, it was weird too. It just like maybe it's because you guys are taking shots in the video or something, but it just has this really rich, and like I said, yeah, it's very Americana. It feels, yeah, very very rooted in old school rock and roll American, like, yeah, same, I kind of thought of like the Allman Brothers and ZZ Top and that kind of stuff when I was listening to it.
That's
But
what we're trying to do, is reach that, and so that's I absolutely love hearing you say that, because that's what we're attempting to do, and we're having an absolute blast with it, man. It's been so fun, and making that record was cool, and now making the videos for it, and we just started. I guess was it right after the holidays? We spent a day shooting video for our second single.
oh, nice.
And we've still got to do one more day to finish that up, but then the second one will be ready to go. And same deal, just having a lot of fun. The director we're working with, Kareem K, local guy, owns a recording studio and video studio here in town called Magic Studios, and he does just phenomenal work. He's a guy who did the Devil's Due video as well, and we're going to keep working with him because he's just really really great. His crew's fantastic. So working with him for video number 2, and we'll just keep them rolling.
Nice. Yeah, I love the visual in that video because it feels like, yeah, like a miniature movie. Yeah, just it has a very cinematic vibe to it. Which I think,
Yeah, we're all really really pleased with it. Very happy with how it came out, and yeah, man, it's funny that whole thing was done in a room about the size of a 2-car garage,
oh,
and
nice.
all of it, and he's got an LED wall. The back wall of that room is just a big giant LED screen, so you can project anything you want on it. So you can literally make it look like you're anywhere,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, so that's how we got that, and then the lighting, of course, and all that stuff to get the mood right, but yeah, it was super cool. This next one we shot mostly on location outdoors, so it's gonna be a little different, and we've got more actors in it and stuff. This one's gonna have like I said, another cinematic kind of thing to it, and
Nice.
it should be really cool. That song's called Bobblehead Jesus. It'll be out.
Oh, right on.
I'm gonna say probably the end of February. We
Okay.
should drop that.
Nice. We'll definitely keep an eye out for that. Yeah, I'm excited for that. That's cool. That's really cool. And so as far as the band goes, you mentioned John Adams, of course, from Love and War, longtime player with them, and then Brent and Eric are Van were with you in Ariel's Bane, correct?
Yes, yeah. Brent and I have been playing together as a bass player. Brent Marches probably, man, like over 20 years. I mean, everything I've done, he's just kind of ended up in it too, So I guess he's like my go-to bass player for everything, you know, because he's man, he's awesome. So great guy, just tremendous bass player. So
Yeah.
and Van uh came into Azrael's band kind of towards the end of it. So it wasn't in that band for a long time, but I've known Van for decades, you know, great drummer. He was in Z-Lot Z before that, which was a pretty well known band, at least regionally here. And Van, you know, he's just a killer drummer. So, um, and then John, of course, John Adams. John's just a monster guitar player, like,
Yeah.
you know, just absolute monster. And again, another guy I've known for decades. This whole band was kind of, you know, like I said, when it started out, I intended it to be a side project, and I just called some friends and said, "Hey, man, I want to do this." And John was one of those guys that came in, and you know, over the years, it just has grown into what it is now. And it's just, but all of us have been friends for, man, I'm talking 20, 30 years, you know, way back. So um, it's real comfortable playing together because we know each other really well. So, and it's working, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it feels like, I mean, I've seen some footage of you guys live, and I haven't seen you live, but hopefully that'll change. But yeah, it feels like you guys really feed off of each other, and yeah, you seem very comfortable playing together.
Yeah, I mean, I think that comes from familiarity, you know. I mean, and all those guys are so good. It's
Yeah,
just it's so easy to be in a band and perform with guys that are as good as they are, and every one of them is just an absolute master of their instrument, you know. So um, it makes my job super easy, you know. I just stand up there and sing, you know, and you know, strum a little guitar, but those guys are back behind me just tearing it up, you know, and they it's really rare for anybody to make any mistakes or anything. Or if we do, we just laugh about it. But it's just because they're just so polished and so good at what they do, you know.
right.
So it just it makes the whole thing really fun because, you know, I don't go into a gig worried about anything ever, you know. It's just I know everybody's going to do what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it. And, you know, literally the only problems we ever have is like if something breaks, you know,
Right.
like, you know, I had we had a gig last year where my amp, my head fell off the cabinet, like plummeted, you know, good 4 feet. Yeah,
Oh,
that was fun. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. But stuff like that happens, sure. But as far as, you know, the way guys are playing, I never think about it at all. Those guys are just too good to worry about it, you know.
yeah,
So
all
it's
pros.
awesome.
Yeah, you guys are definitely all pros. Um, and speaking of live, I know you've got some shows coming up here, some pretty soon. Yeah, what do you guys have in what do you have going on right now?
So Friday the 26th, which I like a week, um, we're going to be in LA at the Viper Room,
Nice.
uh, which we'll be in town for NAMM. We're going to go check that out, and then while we're there, you know, we got a show down in Hollywood at the Viper with one of our friends, Kareem K. He's actually I just talked about him, the guy that owns Magic Studios. His
Oh,
band's playing
okay.
up there as well, so we're doing that show together with those guys in West Hollywood on Friday the 26th. So anybody in the area, hit me up. I will hook them up with tickets or whatever. Just let me know.
Cool.
And you know, I guess you're in Utah, and that's not that far. So
Yeah.
you know, shoot on down to LA and come see us.
Yeah,
And
I'd
then
love to.
yeah, next month, February 17th, we're playing here back in Houston with Dangerous Toys, doing a show here at a place called Acadia um, with those guys, and look forward to that too. We're not doing a ton of live stuff, you know, but a little bit. Those two shows coming up are the next two big ones coming up anyway, and then we'll fill in as we go.
Nice, nice. Do you have once the album is released, once Dust Bowl is released, do you have any intention of like a full-on tour or
I don't see us ever really jumping in a van and taking off and touring again. You know, I mean, I did that when I was much younger, and that's a younger guy's game, you know. And so what I see us doing is probably festivals and some fly-ins and stuff like that. You know, we used to do this a lot with Azrael's Bane. We called them airplane tours where we'd book a gig at some festival or something as the hub thing and fly in. And while we were there, I'd book another handful of shows in that region, within a easy drive of it. You rent a van and do maybe 4 or 5 shows and then fly home and call it a tour, So,
Smart. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I could see us doing that, but as far as like just full blown touring, I don't think that'll ever happen. I mean, it's just at this point in all of our lives, it just seems really unlikely. So, I don't even think I would want to do that, man, at this point.
Yeah,
But
it seems probably, it sounds, as somebody in their 50s, it sounds exhausting.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it wore me out when I was in my 20s, night after night doing that. I could not even imagine doing that anymore. Now, if you're getting like a Rolling Stones budget and you're staying in the Four Seasons and they're flying on a private charter flight everywhere you go or something, okay, I could do that.
Yeah.
But jumping in a van and crisscrossing the country these days, oh man, no way. Just no way. I'm not doing that. So, but yeah, I do suspect that we'll be doing hopefully a lot of festivals and fly-ins, occasional fly-in like this Viper Room thing. It's a fly-in gig for us, and it's a cool show, doing stuff like that. I see us doing a lot more of that. I'm sure we will be getting out. To this point, we've only really played regionally, but once the record's out, I'm sure we'll be all over the country. But it's going to be like those periodic deals like that.
Right. Yeah, those specific festivals. Oh, that's cool though. That'll be great. That's really cool. Let's switch gears a little bit and kind of take a ride in the Wayback Machine. I was curious about kind of your start in music. Like, did you come from a musical family? When did you start playing guitar? Kind of how did that all start for you?
Well, man, I played guitar when I was in high school. I was a terrible guitar player, by the way, in high school, but and had some garage bands and stuff like that back then. And then I laid the instrument down for a few years, and then I started playing again in my, I don't know, mid 20s, I guess, and got into a band and started doing some gigs and stuff around town. But I was kind of a late bloomer with that. I mean, most of the guys I knew were in their teens doing it. I didn't really get going professionally till I was well into my 20s. And somewhere I was a guitar player in a band, and our singer had quit, and we had a gig like the next day, and we had rent due for our rehearsal space. And so I was telling the guys, hey, we got to cancel the show. And they were like, dude, you know all the songs, just sing them, and at least we can get the money to pay the rent on the room. So we did the gig, and the guys came to me after the show, and they were like, well, we got good news and bad news. And I was like, okay. And they said, well, the bad news is we need to find a new guitar player, and the good news is you're our new singer. So that was that's how I started singing. It was
Wow.
I had no intention of ever doing that, but I just fell into it, and I've been doing it ever since. So
Nice.
pretty much how I started with it. But yeah, I was a late bloomer. I didn't do it. Most guys I know that have been doing it for a long time, like I have, they started when they were like 18 or whatever, touring or whatever. I was well into I was like 25 probably before I really took it seriously. So, and, got into my first good original band. I was probably 30, so, yeah, pretty late. And that was Ugly Wanda. And that, so that was much later on than most guys do. But and just kind of been plugging along ever since.
Wow, nice. Was your family musical? Did your parents play music or?
Oh no. I'm very much the black sheep in my family in that regard. No, I've always loved it, but I'm the only one in my family that my mother is she's a writer. She writes books.
Oh, wow.
She's an author. But other than that, I'm probably the only one in my family that does anything musical, my mom and her sister, my aunt, they collaborate on writing novels, but so they're the creative people in the family other than me, I think. But no, yeah, man, I think I'm the only one that does anything musical.
Interesting.
I just fell into it, and I've always loved it, but I always wanted to be a guitar player, but I, some guys have this knack for it, the gene where they just pick it up and boom, they got it. For me, playing the guitar is like, getting a root canal. It's just, it's a torture, man. It's every little step of learning and getting better at it is just nothing comes easy. It's really hard for me. I don't have the knack for it, so,
Oh,
but singing comes really easy. I
okay.
never even had to try, so I'll take it,
Yeah.
if singing was as hard as playing guitar is for me, man, I'd be a drummer or something. But, it's just, I just do it because I love it.
Nice. Wow. That's amazing. Who were kind of your big influences, growing up and maybe still today?
Um, well, like most kids, my generation, you know, I grew up in the 80s, so I was a huge fan of all that 80s rock stuff, all the stuff that was going on the West Coast, guys, bands like Rat and Motley Crue and those guys and stuff like that. And I was, as a guitar player, loved like Warren DeMartini and George Lynch and those kind of guys. They were just incredible,
Yeah.
So I started off with that, and then, but I also had some stuff that I heard growing up around the house, stuff like Springsteen and Tom Petty and Bob Seger and all that kind of stuff, and even the older Southern rock stuff, like you said, like the Allman Brothers and guys like that. I wasn't, I guess that was older people's music to me when I was a kid, so I wasn't like necessarily into it, but you kind of absorb it anyway,
Right.
So I would say later in life, I kind of went back and started studying what some of those guys were doing. But when I was a kid, I didn't. I was all about the Flash stuff. I wanted to be George Lynch when I grew up. When I was a kid, and as it's gone on, now it's listening to guys like Jeff Beck, and guys like that, and just being like blown away by what they do, and it's I guess it's generational. Every generation's like that, You start off with whatever your era has their heroes, and then if you stick with it long enough, you kind of go back to the generation before that and listen to what they were listening to, and you'll
Yeah.
find some really cool stuff. So that's kind of how it worked for me.
Nice. Yeah, I think I have this. I'm not a musician, but I think I have, yeah, similar where, yeah, same thing. 80s, grew up listening to certain things. And then, yeah, I was kind of curious, like, what were their roots? What were they influenced by? And so that I started looking back at things and, got really heavy into like Hendrix and, all that kind of stuff and, Led Zeppelin and,
And that's kind of how it happens for a lot of people. If you go
yeah.
back, I'm a huge Rolling Stones fan, like absolutely love the work those guys do. And that was another thing. I didn't listen to those guys at all until I was into my 20s, probably
Mhm.
25 before, other than what, the songs you heard on the radio or whatever. But I was, I don't know, I was around 25, and buddy of mine popped in a Sticky Fingers CD in my truck one day, and I was just like, "Oh man, this is this is so cool!"
Yeah.
Never listened, never paid any attention to it before, and then you just kind of go, "Oh wow!" I mean, if you really pay attention to what they were doing, it's mind blowing, how
Yeah.
creative it was. So, um, and then I, went from there and just kind of started exploring other stuff, and there's a world of really great music out there, man, if you just look for
Oh
it.
yeah. Yeah. It's interesting too. And maybe you may have a similar experience. I think we're similar in age, but when we were kids in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, it was, to find music, you had to hunt, for it,
Oh yeah.
hear about it. And now it's, click of a button, you can find anything and everything, which is cool, and overwhelming at the same time. But it is, yeah, there's so much out there. It's amazing just to,
Well, yeah, I guess the it's an upside downside kind of thing. I mean, the upside of it is that, like you said, you can find everything, but there's so much of it now. It's kind of diluted. I think it used to be, if there was a record, if it was in a record store, and they on a display somewhere, that band was probably going to be really good,
yeah,
because you had to be in order to get a record deal and make a record and all that. Nowadays, anybody can do it, so you got to wade through a lot more stuff, before you find there's not really a filter on it anymore as far as the quality control kind of thing where there used to
Right.
be. There's now the upside is there's a whole lot of really, really great bands now that you can hear, that may not have made it through that whole system before that you never would have heard of. Um, but there's a few of them that get through too. Then you're like, oh man, yeah, I'm not really digging that. But that's the downside of it. But I guess everything there's a price for everything, and that's part of it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I agree. Um, so sorry, I'm gonna circle back. My brain's all over the place today. So Ugly Wanda, you joined around I think like 2000-ish, I guess, right? Or somewhere.
Yeah, I think it was the late '90s. I think it was like
Okay.
'98, maybe.
Okay.
I think Ugly
And
Wanda broke up around '02,
okay.
maybe
So
something
right
like
after
that.
Send Me, that was the
Yeah,
album you sang on, right? Send Me.
yeah.
And
Shortly
then
after.
so tell me, how did what was the transition from that into Azrael's Bane? Because that was around
Um,
2002, I think, right?
yeah, that was actually was immediate.
Okay.
We had Jeff Clifton, guitar player from Ugly Wanda, and I had been hanging out with Brent Marches and Donnie Bragg, the drummer. That those are the guys that we originally formed Azrael's Bane with. Just man, it sounds really weird, but going over to Brent's house playing basketball on Sundays, like it was just a thing we were doing for a while. And Brent used to have these like full blown, full contact basketball tournaments in his driveway every weekend.
Nice.
And yeah, they were they were pretty brutal sometimes, but we were just friends. And we had played together like a one-off little thing we did for a friend of ours that was getting married. And we put together a just a one-off project to play a set of material for him, and he played with us. And he's the one who kind of put that cast of characters together, and we met through that, and then started hanging out. So when Wanda broke up, it was kind of like I called up Brent and said, "Hey, man, let's try something." And this is like 2 days after Wanda broke up,
Oh, wow.
like that immediate. And we got together in the same rehearsal room that we used for Ugly Wanda and started working on Azrael's Bane stuff. And it was immediate. And in fact, the first few shows we did, we played some Ugly Wanda songs. It was just,
Oh,
yeah, Azrael's Bane was kind of like Ugly Wanda Part 2, just with a different name initially. And then ultimately we developed our own sound and stuff, but it took a while. It started off, it was me and Jeff Clifton uh, from Ugly Wanda, and that started the thing. And then it morphed over time, and like any band, it developed its own thing, but it took a while.
nice. Yeah. And yeah, really cool band too. And I kind of came late to the game with Azrael's Bane, but yeah, I thought both full length albums you guys put out were great. The Wings and then Babylon was excellent. What an excellent album. And it's kind of harkens, it doesn't sound like Queensryche, but there's that sort of vibe, kind of Fate's Warning, that kind of cool progressive vibe.
That's what we were trying to do. Was that kind of thing. It was We were trying to do that, but with a little bit more of a hooky edge to it. I
Yeah.
guess like so we really focused on writing big choruses and stuff while we were also trying to be kind of proggy. So which Queensryche did really well as
Yeah.
well. That was kind of their thing. So Fates, they were more, full blown prog all the time. But
Yeah.
every once in a while they'd sneak one in where you go, oh, that's catchy. But most of the time it was just like being blown away by how much those guys were shredding.
Right.
But anyway, Azrael's Bane was like we tried to marry those two things, and it worked. I thought that band was very unique.
Yeah.
I always thought we had a very unique thing going, and we had a good run. Two records that we're all really proud of, and you know, the industry really is what killed that band. Just label issues and stuff like that, and it's just after so many disappointments in that regard, you finally just get sick of it and go, okay, man, I'm done. It's just it just because we had a whole lot of things just go wrong in that regard. Uh, record companies going out of business and things of that nature. And it just makes it really tough.
Yeah, yeah, that's too bad. Not to put you on the spot, but do you think there would ever be like a reunion, even just a show?
Maybe we did one a couple of years ago,
Oh,
a
nice.
one off, and we're all still in touch, so it's a possibility. I don't, everybody's busy, but I could see. Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't think anybody's against it. We're all still good friends. It's just finding the time. Azrael's Bane stuff is like, man, you got to rehearse that stuff like a lot. It's really complicated. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not like three chords of the truth stuff, man. You got to spend months going over that stuff because it's hard. It's with five guys trying to do all that together. It's not easy. I mean, we used to rehearse like crazy in that band in order to get tight. I mean, we rehearsed really hard a lot, and
yeah,
you had to, because
yeah,
there was nothing about anything we did in that band that was easy. So pulling off a one-off show, it's a ridiculous amount of effort to do it because you got to get in a rehearsal room for probably 3 months to do one show,
yeah.
which that's a lot for a one-off.
Yeah, that
So
makes sense. Yeah. And
you
yeah,
know what I
like you
mean?
said, I mean, yeah, and I think it shows especially like when you look at modern day Babylon, just listening to that, the intensity of it, the intricacy of it, the complexity of that music. I mean, yeah, it shows the talent and the time you guys put into that. So for sure. But
Yeah,
and you've got you're focused on right now on, Dead Man's Hand, which is awesome. Which,
I mean, for people that have heard are familiar with my work anyway from Azrael's Bane or something, Dead Man's Hand is completely different,
yeah, yeah, very
like,
different. Yeah.
but it's but yeah, because I mean, there's not a single sweep in anything we do. I don't think there's any double bass in anything we do.
Yeah.
It's a completely different sound than anything that it's not a metal band at all.
Yeah.
So on purpose and so but yeah, man, I love this band. I'm having time of my life with it. I think we all are. It's you know it's not that difficult to pull off as far in terms of like I was talking about with Azrael's Bane stuff where we had to rehearse like religiously, just to get anywhere even remotely close to being able to pull that stuff off live. This band is the music's a lot more simplistic, by design, and it's a lot easier to do, but it's fun,
Yeah.
So, and we've got this record done. We've got the next one written. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I say that. I mean, I don't know if it's the next record, but it's the next 10, 12 songs for the record, and I'm sure we will add to that and kind of weed through it. But we've got another 12 songs or so ready to go.
Wow.
So yeah, we could do another record tomorrow and have, you know, Dead Man's Hand record number 2 out, you know, and hopefully we do. Hopefully this one does well
Yeah.
enough where, we'll just keep rolling. But,
Yeah.
you know, I'm loving writing this stuff. So's John. And it's fun, so, and, now we get to go out and perform it more and, it's going to be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have many more years to come. And yeah, I'm as I said before, I'm super excited for Dust Bowl to come out and just to hear that, yeah, you've already got you know, enough songs for a second record that's pretty exciting news. That I love to hear that, that you guys got the fire under you and you're ready to go. That's great news.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, man. So I think we're all been working on this. It hasn't been like our main focus for a long time. We all had other stuff going on, and Dead Man's Hand was kind of a side project for all of us. Recently, it's become our main focus for all of us. So um, it's we're all completely 100% zoomed in on this, and as a result, we're going to get stuff done. So I think you'll start seeing this band be a lot more active, much more active. Now because everybody's just kind of went, okay, this is a good thing. We got a really good thing going. We really need to focus on this, so that's what we're doing.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Well, Trey, thank you so very much for chatting with me. This has been awesome. For those of you watching, check out in the description below. I've got links to Dead Man's Hand. You're definitely going to want to check them out. And most definitely pour yourself a nice glass of bourbon and watch Devil's Due. Kick back and watch that killer video. What an amazing song. Trey, again, thank you so very much for chatting with me today. This has been an honor.
Hey, thank you for having me. I had a great time, great conversation, man. I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. Cheers.